Salinger's book, Catcher in the Rye, a very celebrated book by everybody thought was a wonderful author. And I said, after I read that book, I said, if this is a good book, I can do that. And so I sat down. Some of my stories I had in my mind, like the story My War for Me. I wrote that a couple of years ago. But I sat down, and 6 weeks later, I'd written that book. And I'm very proud of it. It's kind of personal. I didn't think anybody would want it, and my first issues was 1,000 copies because I didn't know what I was going to do with all these books. But it turned out that people liked it, and 2 weeks later, I published another 3,200 copies.
Well, not only is it a gripping autobiography, a memoir, as you say, but it does turn out the title comes from what you say has been your kind of guiding principle in your life, the thrill of the chase. And you had a crisis, an illness crisis, and a conversation with Ralph Lauren. Tell me how those two things led to the important part of this book.
Well, it seems like all the lines crossed at the same time. In 1988, I was diagnosed with what everybody thought was terminal cancer. I lost a kidney. My doctors told me I had a 20% chance of living 3 years. And about that same time, Ralph Lauren, who had been an old client of mine and friend for many years, was in my house and looking at some things that I had. And he said, I want to buy that. And I said, Ralph, I don't want to sell it. He said, well, you can't take it with you. And I said, well, Ralph, I can't take it with me. I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
And we laughed about that. But I started thinking about that afterwards, and I got sick. And, you know, if you got to go, I decided I was going to take some of it with me. That's when I decided to buy that beautiful treasure chest. I gave $25,000 for the treasure chest. And I started filling it up with wonderful things, gold coins and gold nuggets and pre-Columbian gold and necklaces. And
he said that you put a lot of people on a bold and exciting adventure, and yourself. And how are you enjoying watching all of this adventure around you?
Oh, tell me not in mournful numbers. Life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are never what they seem. I'm enjoying it, yeah. Then J.D. Salinger died. And everybody, Diane Sawyer's talking about how wonderful he was, that he wrote books and put them in a vault so nobody could see them. And I told myself, this is my kind of guy. So I went down and I bought Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. And I thought I was going to like that book because I'd never heard of the guy. And I said, everybody thinks the book's pretty good. He's nobody, so it must be a pretty good book. So I started reading it, and I read a little bit, and I put it down. I started thinking about it, and I read some more. And it took me about a day and a half to finish that book. And I wasn't ready for it to end when it was over. But I started telling myself, you know, if this is a good book, if Catcher in the Rye is a good book, I can do that. It's nothing but a guy talking to himself, really is what it is. And I said, I can do that. And so I started writing my memoir, and I started remembering, and I would encourage all of you to write your memoir. Went down and I bought Catcher in the Rye. I was in Santa Fe and he was in Temple, Texas. He said, Forrest, I just want you to know that I'm getting ready to take 50 sleeping pills. And I said, Dad, I'll be there first thing in the morning. I had an airplane. He said, that's too late. And it was too late. But I respected him because he wanted to do things on his own terms. What's wrong with making your own rules about things? He could have gone in the hospital and withered away for another 3 weeks or a month. That's no way to live. And all of these thoughts manifest themselves in my treasure chest. When I was a kid, I started making rules. When something significant would happen to me, I'd make a rule. And always my first rule, when I sold my gallery, I had 109 rules. Number one on the list was this: it doesn't matter who you are. It only matters who they think you are. That's how Andy Warhol got there. That's how Neiman Marcus got there. And I could go on and
Because you had said one of your lines from the book is that two men can keep a secret as long as one of them is dead.
That's an old mafia saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because you had said.
But tell me specifically how I can prove to you that I hid the treasure chest.
That you hid the treasure?
Huh?
Your words. I mean,
No, there's a way that I can prove it to you.
how? I don't know.
I've said that two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. I could take you out and show you the treasure chest.
But then you have to kill me?
I wouldn't want to be your insurance agent. I tripped over a grave marker. It was a stone grave marker, about 14, 15 inches wide. It was face down. And I didn't know what it was really, except there were a lot of aluminum grave markers around in the tall grass where I tripped. And I turned it over, and there was an inscription on it, a French soldier's name. And then in English it said, "If you should ever think of me when I have passed this veil and wish to please my ghost, forgive a sinner and smile at a homely girl."
Wow.
And one thing led to another. I came home 2 days later, and I didn't think much about it because the homecoming and being missing in action, those things took some of my time. But the secret of that thing crept back into my mind, and it changed my life over a period of the next couple of years.
Had you described this extraordinary experience that you had being shot down in this little valley with a waterfall and tripping over something?